Have you ever noticed how some people can spend months, even years, planning something they never actually begin? They have notebooks filled with ideas, folders bursting with research, elaborate systems and color-coded spreadsheets mapping out every detail of a project that exists only in their mind. They talk about it with genuine enthusiasm. They can describe exactly what it will look like when it's done. But when you ask them when they are going to start, there's always a reason to wait. There's something strange about this. Because these aren't lazy people. They are not unmotivated. In fact, they are working harder at planning than most people work at doing. They are researching when they could be practicing. They are perfecting when they could be learning. They are preparing for a beginning that never quite arrives. And here's the paradox. The more they plan, the less likely they are to start. So what's really happening in the mind of someone who plans but never begins? What invisible force keeps them circling the starting line, forever on the edge of beginning but never quite crossing over? The perfect mirage. Let me tell you what planning feels like when you are someone who lives in this pattern. It feels productive. It feels safe. It feels like progress. You are sitting there with your laptop, 3 tabs open about the best way to structure a business plan, a YouTube video playing in the background about morning routines of successful entrepreneurs, and a fresh cup of coffee cooling beside you. You are learning. You are growing. You are preparing yourself to do this thing the right way. And in those moments, you are not failing. You can't fail at planning. You can only get better at it, more thorough, more prepared. The project exists in this beautiful, pristine state where it's still perfect because it hasn't yet met the messy reality of execution. But here's the thing. Planning feels like doing because it activates the same reward pathways in your brain. When you imagine your future success, when you visualize the finished project, when you research and organize and strategize, your brain releases dopamine. You get a hit of pleasure and satisfaction. And your mind, in its beautiful but sometimes misleading way, starts to confuse the planning with the actual accomplishment. This is where it gets fascinating. Research in neuropsychology shows that vividly imagining an action can activate similar neural pathways as actually performing that action. When you plan in rich detail, your brain is essentially rehearsing success, and it feels good. So good that it can actually reduce your motivation to take the real action. Your mind has already experienced a version of the reward, so the urgency to begin diminishes. You've already won in your head. Why risk losing in reality? The architecture of avoidance. The psychology behind this runs deeper than simple procrastination. Because procrastination is usually about avoiding discomfort in the moment, putting off something unpleasant for something more immediately gratifying. But chronic planning without starting? That's something else entirely. This is what psychologists call productive procrastination, a sophisticated form of avoidance that disguises itself as progress. And it's brilliant, really, in a tragic sort of way. Because how can anyone criticize you for planning? How can anyone say you're avoiding something when you are clearly working on it? But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. When you plan obsessively without beginning, you're often protecting something precious, your sense of self, your identity, your belief in your own potential. As long as the project remains unstarted, you remain someone who could do this thing. You could write that novel. You could start that business. You could launch that YouTube channel. The potential is still intact, untested, unlimited. Starting means exposing that potential to reality. And reality has this inconvenient habit of having limitations, setbacks, learning curves, and failures. Starting means risking the discovery that maybe you are not as good as you hoped. Maybe it won't work. Maybe you'll struggle. Maybe you'll be disappointed. And this is where the real fear lies, not in the work itself, but in what the work might reveal about you. There's a concept in psychology called ego protection, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior. We will do extraordinary things to protect our sense of self-worth. And one of the most effective protection strategies is simply never putting yourself in a position where you might be proven inadequate. If you never start, you never fail. If you never try, you never have to face your limitations. You can live forever in the potential of what might be, rather than the reality of what is. The perfectionism trap. But let's go deeper, because there's usually another layer here. For many chronic planners, this isn't just about fear of failure, it's about perfectionism. And perfectionism is not, as many people believe, about having high standards. It's about having impossible standards that serve as a shield against judgment. Here's the truth. Perfectionists don't actually want to do perfect work. They want to avoid criticism, rejection, and shame. Perfect work is just the strategy they've chosen to achieve that goal. And planning, endless planning, is perfectionism's favorite hiding place. Because you see, if you are still planning, you have a built-in excuse for why the work isn't done yet. I'm not ready. I need to learn more first. I haven't figured out the best approach. These feel like reasonable statements. They sound responsible, even wise. But underneath, they're often a way of saying, I'm not starting because I can't guarantee it will be perfect, and I can't handle the shame of putting out something imperfect. Research on perfectionism, particularly the work of psychologists Thomas Curran and Andrew Hill, shows that perfectionism has been steadily increasing over the past several decades, especially among younger generations. And it's not because people care more about excellence, it's because we live in an age of constant evaluation, constant comparison, constant visibility. Social media has turned every action into a performance, every creation into a product to be judged. So you wait, you plan, you prepare. Because once you put something out into the world, it's no longer yours to control. It's out there to be judged, criticized, compared, dismissed. And for someone whose self-worth is entangled with their performance, that's terrifying. The identity paradox. And this is where it gets complex, because there's often an identity issue at play here too. Many chronic planners have built their self-concept around being the person who's going to do this thing. You are going to write a book. You are going to start a non-profit. You are going to become a photographer. This future identity becomes part of who you are now. It makes you interesting at parties. It gives you something to hope for. It shapes how you see yourself. But here's the paradox. Actually starting threatens that identity. Because once you begin, you are no longer going to do it. You are doing it. And now you have to face whether you are actually good at it. Whether you actually enjoy it. Whether it actually fulfills you the way you imagined. The dream can survive forever. The reality might not live up to it. I've seen this pattern countless times, and it's heartbreaking because these are often deeply creative, capable people with genuine talents and valuable ideas. But they are trapped in a kind of psychological limbo, caught between the desire to create and the fear of what creation demands. There's also something else happening here that we need to talk about. For some people, the planning becomes an identity in itself. You become someone who's really organized, someone who's really thoughtful, someone who doesn't rush into things. These are positive qualities, right? Except when they become a cage. When being thoughtful means never acting. When being organized means never creating. When not rushing means never moving. The comfort of control. Let me tell you something that might resonate. Planning feels like control. And for many people, especially those who grew up in chaotic environments or experienced unpredictability in their lives, control is everything. When you plan, you are the architect of your future. Everything is neat, logical, organized. Every possible obstacle has been anticipated and addressed. Every risk has been calculated. You've thought of everything, covered all the bases, prepared for every contingency. Starting means surrendering that control. Because the moment you actually begin doing something, you enter the realm of the unknown. Things won't go according to plan. They never do. You'll encounter problems you didn't anticipate. You'll have to improvise, adapt, make decisions with imperfect information. You'll be in the mess of reality instead of the clean lines of planning. And for someone who craves certainty, that's unbearable. This is particularly true for people who score high in what psychologists call intolerance of uncertainty, a personality trait that predicts anxiety and avoidance behaviors. If you need to know how things will turn out before you begin, you'll never begin. Because life doesn't offer those guarantees. The learning paradox. But here's what's fascinating, and maybe this will strike a chord with you if you recognize yourself in this pattern. By refusing to start, you are actually preventing yourself from learning the one thing you need most. You can't learn how to do something by planning to do it. You can only learn by doing it badly first, then doing it slightly less badly, then gradually, painfully, through trial and error and revision and failure and persistence, doing it well. The person who starts before they feel ready, who publishes imperfect work, who launches before everything is perfect, they are not being reckless. They are not being naive. They are accessing the only real teacher that exists, experience. Think about anything you've ever actually gotten good at. Did you get good at it by planning? Or did you get good at it by doing it repeatedly, messily, imperfectly, until gradually, through accumulation of experience, you developed skill? The irony is that chronic planners often have the temperament that could make them excellent at their chosen pursuit: attention to detail, analytical thinking, dedication, thoughtfulness. But they are directing all of those gifts toward preparation instead of execution. It's like training for a marathon by standing at the starting line and studying the course map for years. And the cruel truth? While you are planning, someone else with half your talent and twice your willingness to start messy is already getting better than you. The story we tell ourselves. There's usually a story running underneath all of this. A narrative about who you are and what you are capable of. And this story, like all stories, has the power to shape reality. Maybe the story is, I'm not the kind of person who does things halfway. When I do something, I do it right, or I don't do it at all. This sounds noble, but it's often code for, I'd rather do nothing than risk doing something imperfectly. Maybe the story is, I'm really good at research and planning. That's my strength. This sounds like self-awareness, but it can become a convenient identity that excuses you from the scarier work of creating. Maybe the story is, I'm waiting for the right time, when circumstances are more favorable. This sounds reasonable, but for chronic planners, the right time never quite arrives. There's always one more thing that needs to be in place first. These stories protect us. They explain our inaction in ways that preserve our self-image. But they also trap us. Here's what's true. Every successful person you admire started before they were ready. Every person who's created something meaningful did so imperfectly. Every person who's accomplished something significant has a history of failure, false starts, and learning through doing. The difference isn't that they were more talented or better prepared. The difference is that they were willing to be uncomfortable, to be bad at something, to put imperfect work into the world and let it teach them how to get better. The deeper wound. And maybe this is the real heart of it, the thing we need to be gentle about. For many chronic planners, this pattern is rooted in a wound. A childhood experience of being criticized harshly. A past failure that felt devastating. A history of conditional love that taught you that your worth depends on your performance. If you learned early that mistakes were unacceptable, that failure was shameful, that you were only valued when you succeeded, of course you'd be terrified to start. Of course you'd plan obsessively. Of course you'd wait until you felt certain you could do it perfectly. This isn't weakness. This isn't laziness. This is a survival strategy that made perfect sense in the environment where you developed it. You learned to protect yourself the only way you knew how. The tragedy is that the strategy that once protected you is now imprisoning you. The armor that kept you safe has become too heavy to move in. The way forward. So what's the way out of this pattern? How do you start being someone who starts? First, you have to recognize what planning has been doing for you. What need has it been meeting? What feeling has it been helping you avoid? You can't change a pattern until you understand its function in your life. Second, you have to make peace with imperfection. Not as an intellectual concept, but as a lived reality. You have to practice, yes, practice, being okay with putting imperfect things into the world. Start small. Post the rough draft. Share the messy version. Send the email before you've perfected every word. Third, you have to redefine what starting means. It doesn't mean having everything figured out. It doesn't mean being ready. It means taking the smallest possible action in the direction of your goal. Writing one sentence. Making one phone call. Creating one rough sketch. Start so small that you can't talk yourself out of it. Start so small that perfection isn't even possible. And here's something crucial. You have to separate your worth from your work. Your value as a human being doesn't depend on whether your project succeeds or fails. You are not your accomplishments. You are not your productivity. You are not your output. You are a person who's learning, growing, trying. And that's enough. That has always been enough. So let me come back to where we started. The person who plans but never begins. Maybe that's been you. Maybe you've spent years in preparation, in research, in endless strategizing. Maybe you felt the shame of it, the frustration of watching time pass while your dreams stay locked in notebooks and documents that no one ever sees. Here's what I want you to know. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not lacking in talent or potential. You are someone who learned to seek safety in planning because starting felt too dangerous. And that made sense. It was a reasonable response to fear. But it's keeping you from the very thing you want most, which is not perfection, but participation. Not a perfect outcome, but the experience of creating something real. The world doesn't need your perfect version. It needs your real version. It needs what you'll make when you start before you are ready, when you create imperfectly, when you let your work be messy and human and evolving. And maybe the real beginning isn't about having a better plan. Maybe it's about having the courage to put the plan aside and simply start. To be willing to be a beginner. To be willing to be bad at something before you are good at it. Maybe the real beginning is the moment you realize that the only way forward is through the messy middle, not around it. Your plans have protected you. They've kept you safe. But they've also kept you still. It's time to move. Not perfectly. Just forward.